Hi everyone, it's Luis. Listen, today I am very excited because today the San Antonio Orchid Society is holding their monthly meeting. And today I will be doing the presentation on the Phalaenopsis orchid. Now, the Phalaenopsis orchid is also known as the moth orchid. And I really love the Phalaenopsis orchid because it comes in great variety of colors, and I'm going to show you some pictures of some that I found on the internet just to give you an example of what is out there. You have anything from whites to pinks to yellows and reds to harlequins, the ones with the spots and the stripes. Those are all the varieties that you can see out there, but most of these Phalaenopsis are spring bloomers. Now, not to be confused with a summer blooming Phalaenopsis that is a spring blooming hybrid. Spring blooming hybrids have different species of orchids in them that normally they like to bloom in the spring. In the summer blooming orchids have summer blooming Phalaenopsis species, and they come from different areas, but most of all of the Phalaenopsis orchids come normally from Southeast Asia all the way down to Australia. So there's some seasonal ones up in the north, and anything that's closer to the equator is going to be the warm or the summer growing orchids. Now, these orchids are warm. There's some cold growers, but in the market right now, they're mainly, the Phalaenopsis type. They look like this. They are hybridized with spring blooming orchids. So normally you will see them in the spring blooming. And there's special cultural requirements that you have to meet in order for them to bloom. So I have read this book, and this book is The Culture of the Phalaenopsis Orchid by Bob Gordon. And I came into possession of this book when Dalton Watson passed away, and he was an accredited American Orchid judge here in San Antonio, Texas. And this book is autographed to Bob. And the only Bob that I know that would be interested in orchids here in San Antonio, Texas is Mr. Bob Webster, the owner of a nice, really great nursery here in San Antonio. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the culture, what he recommends, and on the second culture, I'll talk more about pests and what you need to do to make them bloom. So first off, let's start with requirements. Phalaenopsis orchids technically have 6 requirements to grow them. You have to meet the 6 requirements to make them bloom and grow successfully and happily. Now, the first one is going to be the light. Phalaenopsis orchids like light for at least 6 hours a day, and they like filtered light. So you could put some kind of shade cloth over your greenhouse, or if you have them in a room, you can put a sheer curtain to block out the strong sun. Now, they do prefer an east or south facing window, but if you're going to put them in the west facing window, it's better that you use a sheer curtain to block out the strong sun rays. Now, as far as temperature, they normally like about 60 degrees at night, and during the day they like warm to hot, depending on most varieties. I'm not going to go into the cold growing ones. Just they like 75, 85, and all the way to 95, and they're perfectly fine. Now watering, you could just water them once a week if they're in sphagnum moss, like this one right here. And see how beautiful those green roots are? Well, this is an example of a Phalaenopsis potted in sphagnum moss. In the next video, I'll give you an example of one that is potted in a bark and perlite mix. So as far as humidity, in order to meet the humidity requirement, you have to maintain 50 to 80% humidity in order for them to be happy. And if you have, let me get this real quick. If you get one of these meters, it's going to tell you the temperature and the humidity. So what you need to do is make sure that it is above 50. Right now I have 66. So it's perfectly fine. And you'll be fine. Now if you are low in humidity, just go ahead and create a humidity tray. I think I made a video on humidity trays, I'm not sure, but I'll check. If I don't, I'll make sure that I make a video on humidity trays. So moving on to the next requirement would be the potting media. I already talked a little bit of it. It's sphagnum moss and bark and perlite mix. And for fertilizer, they like a regular type fertilizer, 20-20-20, 10-10-10, 15-15-15. Those fertilizers will be perfect for your Phalaenopsis. And but he changes a little bit slightly based on his recommendations in order to make them bloom. And the reason is because they have a growing phase and they have a blooming phase. So the recommendation is different. I'm going to go into it in the next video. So I'm going to close this video by saying, look at the second video, because in the second video it gets more interesting, and I'm gonna give you information, very useful information on making sure how to grow your Phalaenopsis really good and healthy so that they can bloom for you. So talk to you later. Bye bye.